People of the internet! Let's get into the next story. I have another story pulled up here, folks. Shout out to Anton Daniel. Looks like the conversation that was being held amongst him and a few of his colleagues, looks like the topic was if it's ever okay to talk to a single mother. Of course, men, is it okay for you, as a single man with no kids, to talk to a woman who has kids? It looks like there's about a panel of a few other people. Of course, I'll go ahead and share my screen, get the story pulled up here. I'll listen to a little bit. The video looks to be a little bit long. I'll listen to a little bit of the opinions that are being stated in this video. And of course, I'll give my take on this because this is another narrative that I hear a lot on these YouTube streets as well. Again, another thing that I usually see the internet up in arms about. There's some people that believe yay. There's some people that believe nay. To be completely honest, I'll share my thoughts. You might be a little bit surprised. But let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this, see what the people have to say in regards to this matter.
For me personally, it's only two circumstances I would date a woman with kids. That's if the dude, the baby dad is dead, or she got to give up custody. That's the only two.
I don't know how you doing it, bro.
And I would never do it. I'm just saying.
She has to give up custody?
She would have to give up custody of the kids. Yeah.
So you would be with
Then she wouldn't be a single mom.
No, I would never be with a
single mothers do.
I'm just saying a woman that got kids that ain't mine.
So, but you
got to give her kid away?
You would be okay dating a woman that gave her kid away, that character?
No, it's not like she never see the kid again. I'm talking about full primary custody. She got to get a kid away.
You still would want to be a woman that would make that choice to choose you over her child.
I mean, if that's how you want to put it. But I'm just telling you, first of all, I said I would never do it anyway.
What does that say about you?
What do you mean what they say about me?
Let's pause right there, folks. Let's pause right there. Shout out to the good folks that were participating on this panel. Shout out to Anton Daniels. I hear this narrative a lot on the internet, folks. Again, just one of the infamous debates that's always usually taking place here on the internet. You know, this is definitely one of them, of course, with the current climate and the dating culture. I'll share my thoughts, folks. Again, the video is titled, "Is it ever okay to talk to a single mother?" And I said before as well, too, I'm going to share my thoughts because I think that my thoughts are in opposition to the narrative that I hear a lot of men confidently say. Although I would somewhat agree with one of the brothers real quick. It looks like his name was Xavier. I'll tell you where I agree with what he said. But in general, what do I think about that? Would I do it? And should men do it in general, right? Let me start with me. Break down the details. Me, a single man who considers himself on the come up, 35 years old, no kids. Some would argue I'm in my prime. Some would say I have my whole life ahead of me as a man, yada, yada, yada. Would I personally, in my current circumstance right now, take on a woman with one or more children? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, I wouldn't. Ideally, but for numerous different reasons. And I'll tell you the gray area because I think the brother even touched on it as well too. I'll tell you the gray area for me. So at the core, no. The answer is no, I would not. I wouldn't take on that task personally because I know the time and energy that it'll take, let alone just talking to a girl, a single woman right now. I know how much time that would take. Right? Just, being able to divvy up my time, my money, my resources, my energy to just a girl without kids right now, it's a task in itself, let alone her and a kid or her and one or more kids, right? So I wouldn't sign up for such a challenge right now because, again, I am somebody who considers myself on the come up and still has a lot more work to do on myself and within my career, this, that, and the other. The circumstance, which I agree with the one brother, he kind of touched on as well too. The only way, I'll tell you the circumstance where I would. I told you guys there was a gray area for me. So the one way where I would talk to a woman who has children is if, and it might sound grim, is if the father of those children is completely out of their lives. He's either doing a life sentence in jail or he's no longer with us. Say, oh, wow, man, those are some harsh circumstances to meet, man. Why that? Why does the father of those children have to be doing a life sentence in jail or no longer with us? The reason why that is because as a man, as a father, whether she's in communication, she might tell you, oh, but we don't even talk no more. We've gone our separate ways. That man always has the right to demand he sees his children where he can randomly pop up to the crib and, oh, I want to see my kids. And maybe he start feeling away because you start treating his children, although he might have showed no interest in taking care of his own children, but the moment you start showing, you know, some type of emotional attachment or just being a better father than what he was or could have been, maybe there's animosity, unnecessary animosity that comes towards you as that man as well too. So I don't got time to take on all those people. Again, we're talking about the woman, her children, and the potential baby father. You can't just be popping up when you want to. I want to see my kids. Maybe jealousy starts taking in place. Oh, nah, who's this fool? I don't want this fool around my kids, yada, yada. You know how the narrative goes. I don't got time for none of that right now at 35 years old. Again, considering myself still on the come up. So if I was to consider you, your man got to be completely out of the picture. He's not a factor anymore. And maybe we could talk. Now, some men will say, nah, man, I still ain't doing it, man. Nah, them kids ain't mine. I still ain't doing it, bruh. You crazy, bro. You a simp, bruh. You a simp, bruh. I still ain't doing it. I ain't taking care of no man's kids, blah, blah, blah. And I hear you, fellas. I hear you. But here's the rebuttal, right? Here's where I say I might, you know, catch you off guard with this, because honestly to God, that's just speaking for myself. Now, generally speaking, do I think other men out there in the world should never take on a woman who has children? Not necessarily, bro. I think some men should step up to the plate and help these women in need, because what does the world look like with women and children out here on their own struggling? Now you say, oh, that's not my problem, bro. I ain't make that decision. See, man, you a simp, bro. I ain't make that decision. That's not my problem, bro. Who cares? Think about it, though, fellas. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. We probably know a lot of situations where you might even know somebody yourself right now where a stepfather came into the picture and has been the most phenomenal dad, the most phenomenal husband, mentor, teacher to those children. So should we just say, oh, all those children are just doomed now? Who should be that male figure? We always complain, oh, these men don't have any male figures. That's why the kids are going astray. Because there's no dominant male figures in the picture no more, man. No, men are not stepping up to the plate. Men are dropping their responsibilities. So if us as men all throw our hands up and say, oh, all the single mothers, oh, well, they just on their own. So are we saying that we don't care about we just going to continue the negative cycle of children not having that guidance? Can we all just say, oh, nah, that's not my problem? What happens if we all turn a blind eye and say, oh, that's just not my problem? Then what? Somebody's got to be able to step at the plate, because that's how we're going to allow and see to it that our society is still functional. If we continue this trend of, again, of course, there's responsibilities, it's accountability on both parts. Yes, women, it's your part to choose wisely. But sometimes you can't, you can't foresee the things that are coming down the line. Maybe people's characters change, circumstances change. I get that. But I feel like, again, fellas, if we all turn a blind eye and say, oh, that's not my problem, I'm not taking care of another man's kids, what happens to that society? What happens to that generation behind us? Should they all just be fatherless? What happens to that demographic of children that don't have that guidance and that, direction from a strong male figure in the household? Another way you could say as well, to another circumstance, people will say, okay, I'll do it as if, hey, man, I got kids myself. So let's say, for example, in the circumstance where you yourself might have kids and you meet a woman who also has kids, you guys can join forces. I think that makes sense as well, too. That's ideal. Where she already has a kid, maybe she's not planning on having any children anymore, whatever the case is. Or maybe even if she is, maybe she has one kid, you have one kid, and maybe you guys maybe come together and plan to have children of your own as well, too. I think that's ideal. That's best case scenario. Because both parties have equal skin in the game, as they would say. If we're saying that the children are the future, don't you see it as that being a way that we're turning our back on those children? Are the children going to be the future or not? And if they are, don't you think those children do need that strong male figure? So whether it's not by the biological father, whether it's another guy, there's circumstances that I know. I have even peers right now that have stepped in and taken on the role of being a father to a children that's not theirs. And it's working. It seems to be working. So I think, honestly, again, as all things usually do, I think it comes down to preference. But I just don't want to spew out the narrative. I'd rather people just say, hey, it's not for me, as opposed to saying, no man should do it. I think the narrative that I usually see commonly spewed on is other men tearing other men down or breaking other men down or saying, nah, man, you a fool for taking care of that. Those ain't your kids. What if we all adopted that mindset, bro? I think it's counterproductive. So instead of making a blanket statement and saying, oh man, no man should take care of another woman's kids, I would prefer people just say, hey, maybe that's not for me, but y'all do what you want to do. I think that's more productive, right? So that way we're not having this negative stigma towards men who do want to or don't mind taking on a woman and her children. That's just my thoughts at the top of my head. Of course, again, speaking personally for myself right now, I wouldn't, only because of, again, my philosophies that I'm currently speaking on and where I'm at in my life. Who knows? If I'm fully established and I do get to where I want to get to financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I like children in general, honestly. Like, I like kids. So it's just like, it's not that far-fetched. Like, it's not a stretch. Again, these are children that are already established, because I just look at it as mentorship. Would you not mentor kids? If you can be a mentor, can't you be a stepfather? If you can be a mentor, those are not your kids. I plan to get, I said this in another video as well too, I plan to get into mentorship at some point in my life, hopefully, God willing. I want to be a mentor. I want to, be able to guide the children of tomorrow. Give them resources, give them guidance, help them not make the same mistakes I made as a young kid coming up in this world. So I'm not opposed to the idea of, if you're open to the idea of mentorship, is it a stretch to be open to the idea of being a stepfather? I don't think so. Think about those things, man. Again, folks, always go by things that make sense to you and not the narratives that you see on social media. I think some people will see these conversations, of course, that we just reviewed and be like, oh, nah, yeah, he's right. I want to follow what he's saying so I don't look like the outcast. That's the mistake a lot of people make. You listen to these people, and again, a lot of these things were in jokes. They said it in jest. They're joking. They're playing. They probably still hold firm to those beliefs, but do things that make sense to you, folks, and not the narratives from strangers on the internet. I said that once. I'll say it a million times more. I think everybody should do what makes sense to them and their lifestyle, things that align to their own core beliefs, and not the narratives of strangers on the internet. Don't let anybody shame you out of what you feel is right, or what you're not opposed to doing because of shame or backlash from strangers on the internet. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That's my thoughts, folks. I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. What do you make of that, man? Should all men just not deal with women with children? Are you a man out there that's watching who's stepped up to the plate and taken on the role of a woman with children? And is it working for you? Are you happy with that decision? Do you regret that decision? What's your philosophy in terms of dating women who have children when you don't? Or maybe if you do you have children and you found a woman who has children and it seems to be working out for you? Is it not working out for you? I want to hear it down in the comment section, folks. I'm genuinely interested in this situation again. At the end of the day, I think it all comes down to personal preference. But what I don't like with this story, of course, is when people make a general statement and say, no men should ever talk to a woman without children, because what does that, are we just going to say, oh, well, that means we just don't care about the women and children? When I feel like there was a period of time when the men did step up to the plate and care about the protection and the well-being of our women and children. So if we all turn a blind eye to the single mothers of the world, what happens to the single mothers? What happens to those mothers and children of the world? What happens? What society are we building? What the generations behind us? What does that world look like if more and more women are single and have children, and men are just turning a blind eye to giving them guidance? Yes, ladies, there's accountability. I know a lot of people come down in the comment section and say, hey, it is accountability, ladies. Sometimes y'all got to do a better job of making better decisions. But I do understand the circumstances that are outside of your control, and you guys can take on all the blame. But of course, there is a level of accountability that needs to be taken on both sides, both the women and both the men, because at the end of the day, the only people that's really losing out in that circumstance are the children. That's my thoughts. Of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. Of course, the likes, the comments, subscribes are always greatly appreciated. I'll catch you on the next one.